Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Christine Dixon of The Ordinary Sacred, and I'm so happy you're back with me. It's been a little while. I took some time off for family, and I hope that during that time you were very kind to yourselves and to all of your parts. And today I have something really special for you. I am doing a collaboration with the creators of Harmony, which is an internal family systems AI therapist. And if you've seen some of my past videos, I did a video about my kind of pros and cons about AI therapy, particularly using IFS. And also, I have an example of myself using Harmony. So you can go back and check those out on my channel. But right now, this is a really, really exciting opportunity. This is going to be like a reaction video where essentially someone has been brave enough to come on and present their very vulnerable, it's always vulnerable when you're doing any kind of therapy, right? Their session with Harmony. So you can see exactly what it looks like. And I don't know anything about this right now. So I'm going to be reacting in real time, watching it with you. And this is an experiment. So what I'm thinking is I'm probably going to stop and react, kind of pause it and react in real time, and then kind of give a synopsis at the end. And I am offering kind of my thoughts and my encouragement toward the person who is doing the session, as well as maybe giving some thoughts about how Harmony is handling it and maybe how I would do it differently or what I think is really great about what Harmony is doing, so that you can see that the AI itself is a tool and that you are ultimately your own authority, right? So you can take or leave things, you can evaluate things. Your capital S self is the healing agent in your system. And Harmony is like a tool, just like another person, like a therapist, that offers some self energy, is like a self energy surrogate to your own self, right? And so before we get going, I also just want to express, because we are going to extend this invitation to any of you who would like to do this and to get some free time with Harmony and have not only Harmony help you through something you're struggling with, but also have my input. And it's free to you, but then it also helps me and helps Harmony, kind of get IFS out there into the world. But what I wanted to say is that when people offer to be seen in this way, it is an incredible gift. I say this to people in my groups all the time when they volunteer to be coached by me in front of a group. We can have parts that are really, really worried about that. And the reason is because all our parts ever want is to be seen and heard and loved and valued just as we are. So our biggest fear, most of our parts, all of our parts' biggest fear is that we will be seen and heard and rejected and judged, right? So that's why it's hard for us to put ourselves out there. Or when we do, when we're vulnerable, we have what Brene Brown calls a vulnerability hangover, right? Or we can have inner critics come in and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you shared that. You put that out there. People are going to judge you. People are going to reject you, ridicule you. I don't know. They have all of these fears because social connection and acceptance equals life when we're young, right? So these are young parts. So I always want to reiterate that this person today that I'm going to watch, and every single person who volunteers to do this, it is a huge gift to everyone watching, because I guarantee you that what you're going through will resonate with other people. It will help them understand maybe how to work with their own parts, how to have compassion on their own parts, how to allow the vulnerabilities to come up. It's such a gift. So please honor the person who volunteered this time and any time that I do this. All right. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is play this. And so you'll be watching this session with me. You'll kind of see how Harmony works. Only thing I've been told about this person is that they're not really very familiar with IFS, internal family systems, and not even super keen on therapy itself. And so this will be a really interesting example to see how Harmony deals with that. So I'm excited to watch. Join me.
Hey, Edward, good to see you again. What's on your mind today?
Not much. Just trying to do a session to help me through some issues.
I'm glad you're here. What kind of issues are you hoping to work through today?
Well, I realized that I don't come across as very friendly, and I kind of wish I was more in a way that made people feel comfortable and receptive towards me. And at first, I always wasn't sure if it was me or if it was them. But then I do realize, after reflecting a lot, that I am a pretty guarded person, and I don't like making myself vulnerable to people. And so I feel like that might be why I don't come across as too friendly and don't take initiative to be friendly or start things. And so something like that.
That is a very honest reflection, Edward. It sounds like you've noticed a guarded part of you that keeps a distance to protect you from being.
I just wanted to stop it real quick here and give my thoughts kind of before Harmony does, and just say, it. I want to applaud Edward for that self-awareness and that realization that, like, I think a lot of people can relate to this. Is it me? Is it them? And I think when we make, in IFS, we call this a YOU turn, where we turn the focus back on us and get curious about what is going on in me. It sounds like Edward has had this realization that there's some guardedness. And guardedness in IFS language really just means we have protective parts, right, that are protecting more vulnerable parts of us. So I like initially just what I've heard that Harmony is saying, you've noticed a guarded part of you. So what Harmony's doing is translating what Edward has said. I think I am guarded, and saying, so you've noticed a part of you that's guarded, that's keeping a distance to protect you. Okay, let's keep going.
Being vulnerable. When you think about that guarded part of yourself, how do you feel toward it in this moment?
I feel that it has caused me to miss out on having deeper and really good relationships with people. But then at the same time, I feel like it also protects me from being hurt by people.
You're seeing both sides clearly. It's kept you safe from pain, and it's cost you those deeper connections you want. That's a real tension. If you could speak directly to that guarded part right now, what would you want it to know about how you feel?
I like that. Again, Edward is aware of what in IFS we call polarization, right? Which are parts that are in tension with each other. And so Harmony is basically saying that you're seeing both sides clearly. You're seeing this polarization. You're seeing that on the one side there's this guarded part that is protecting you and your vulnerable parts. But there are other parts that dislike that are seeing the cost of that, because every protective part simultaneously has good intention to protect us, and negative impact, because its burden is that it's doing this thing to an extreme, and then that inevitably causes a negative impact. So there are other parts on the other side of that polarization that see the impact that it's having. And in this case, it's costing you having deeper connections. And so these parts are saying, we really want to have deeper connections. We don't like that you're guarded like this. Why are you doing this? Right. So it's beginning to get curious about this guarded part and why it does what it does.
I think would want it to know that sometimes it's okay to let down your guard a little. But then at the same time, when I do let down my guard, maybe I overcompensate and it comes out weird, like I'm trying to be too friendly and too nice. So I don't know. It's a little confusing where that balance is to be friendly to people. And I don't know, maybe I just don't have the social skills. Don't know what to say, don't know what to do, really. And the things I might try might come across weird, like if I start hugging people too much or something like that.
Oh, I have parts that relate to this and parts that are feeling like empathetic and compassionate toward it. And again, Edward is expressing like the polarizations here. And one word that stood out to me was it's a little confusing. And that I call that the confusion a C that's not of self. And it's essentially the experience that we have when our parts are polarized, because it's like parts are pulling in this direction, this direction. You need to be friendly to people. No, you're being too friendly. You're being awkward. And so what Edward may be pointing to is that in the past, he's had these experiences where when he was friendly, or people took it as being too over the top or awkward. And so this part's trying to uh, counterbalance what it thinks is not acceptable socially. And so the picture is actually, for me as an observer, the picture is getting clearer and clearer. But when you're in it and you feel this part saying, but this, but what about this, right? It's like you're being pulled in lots of different directions. And so that's the feeling state that we have when that happens, is confusion. So he names that. And I like that that part is expressing what they're afraid would happen. The big question in IFS, if they didn't stop doing their job. So if I didn't guard you, then there's this part that would be like too effusive, and it might come across as awkward to other people, and then you might be rejected, right? Which is the ultimate fear. Makes sense to me.
So when the guarded part steps back, it sounds like another part rushes in, maybe trying to make up for lost time by being extra friendly, which then feels awkward or out of balance. Does that ring true? What do you think that part that overcompensates is afraid might happen if it doesn't try so hard?
Um, just a note here. I love that Harmony said, "Does that ring true?" Because some of you have known that when I was trained with Martha Beck, one of the big questions we ask is, when I have a hunch that maybe it's this, I'll ask, tell me where I'm wrong, because I don't actually know. And what Harmony is suggesting here is a hunch. It's saying maybe there's this part that's like overcompensating for the guarded part. And that may be true, or the part that overcompensates and is really friendly may have existed first. We don't really know at this point which of those parts was more extreme first. And so it might be what Harmony's saying, it might be the other way around. So it's good to ask, is that true? Tell me where I'm wrong. And that is whenever you say you're with an actual human coach, right? Like myself, when I have a hunch, I will ask. But the beautiful thing in IFS is that we can go in directly to the part and ask it directly whatever we want to know. We don't have to guess. But it can be helpful to guess. And then here, the question, what do you think the part that overcompensates is afraid might happen if it doesn't try so hard? So now it's getting at this other part that appears to be more effusive and asking its deepest fear, right? What is it afraid would happen? And maybe we'll get a direct answer from that.
I think if it doesn't try so hard, I would just fall back into my default guarded position, which is more comfortable to myself. It's almost like I feel like I need to make myself a little uncomfortable to get away from being so guarded.
That makes a lot of sense.
Just want to know that that's another part coming in and talking, that's saying, that's too comfortable. We need to make ourselves uncomfortable. So again, you can kind of hear when you are aware of the parts that when they're switching back and forth and talking, right? The one that's like, but I'm comfortable being guarded. It's more comfortable for me. But maybe you need to be less comfortable to create a balance, right? And so they're kind of having this dialogue within him right now.
You're pushing yourself out of what feels safe because staying guarded feels like giving up on the connections you want. But it sounds like you're caught between two extremes: the guarded part that feels comfortable but isolating, and the overcompensating part that feels awkward but at least trees. What would it look like to find a middle ground, somewhere between those two extremes, where you could be genuinely open without forcing it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the part I struggle with. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's interesting that Edward is saying, well, yeah, that's what I struggle with, right? Because my first reaction to this is whenever we have two polarized parts, which means that they're both extreme, right? It's two men in a boat, and one man is hanging over this side of the boat to such an extreme that the boat's going to capsize in that direction. So the other man hangs over this side of the boat in an equal and opposite extreme, right? So the real goal that we want is to figure out which one of these leaned over the boat first, which one became extreme first, because if we can help that one, then the other one can come more into the boat as well. And so really the solution, the way to get them both, essentially what Harmony is suggesting here, to be more moderate and to come in closer, is to heal what they're protecting. They can't stop doing their extreme job until what they are protecting is helped or healed. And they genuinely feel like they don't have to do that to an extreme anymore. So the root needs to be healed for that to happen. And that's why Edward is like, yeah, I don't know. That's my problem. That my parts are hanging out like that, and what they protect hasn't been healed yet, so they can't come in yet. So let's see where Harmony goes with this.
Exactly how to do that. And then there's also the fact that, people who do know me, already have a set preconception of how I am. So if I get too far out of that, then it really looks weird because they don't know me to be that kind of person.
It's another fear.
And so, yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to go about finding the right balance. And, should I just start with being a little more consistent with little steps? Like maybe when someone I know fairly well, when I greet them, I should just consistently kind of greet them with a hug, unless they obviously are not like that. Should I do that? Just start.
So I'm hearing this part that's trying, again, this is like a manager part that is so beautiful and is trying to make suggestions and say, maybe we could try with like little steps. And this is a beautiful suggestion, but there's this questioning of, it feels like somewhat of a young energy, right? Of like, I don't know what to do. Help me, lead me, give me some guidance. Should I do this? Should I do that? You're hearing some of the should language, right? I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. And hopefully where this will lead is to go inside to the inner wisdom of the self. And when those parts that feel vulnerable in that way, feel really connected to the self, then the self will offer guidance and will suggest kind of like this, but in less of a hesitant way, like, why don't we try this and see what happens? And you don't have to keep doing it. You can just try it and see if it's safe, right? Try a little bit of connection with the person in front of you and see if it's safe with them, because it's not going to be universal with every person. We've got to offer a little vulnerability and see if the person in front of us can handle it, how they handle it. If they handle it well, we offer more, right? It's not just a blanket statement of I should always do this or I should always do that. But again, that comes with the connection with self and the stability of knowing that even if I offer a little bit of this to someone and they reject me or they think I'm awkward or weird, judge me in some way, it's okay because that part has secure connection with the self, the unconditionally loving source inside of me, right? So I know I'm stopping a lot. This is going to be very long if I keep stopping. I'll try to let it go for a little bit longer.
Start with small steps and do it consistently. And that will also change people's preconception of me. I don't know
idea.
if that's what to do.
Starting with consistent small steps like that is a very thoughtful way to ease into a more open stance. It helps shift people's expectations of you gradually while also keeping your guarded part from feeling totally overwhelmed by a sudden change. As you think about taking those small steps, what is happening inside? Are you noticing any concern or pushback from that guarded part about making these changes?
Good question.
Well, I think it would be dependent on how the other person reacts.
That's right.
Different people will react differently. If they are welcoming to it, then I guess it would be easier for me to continue and to go further, maybe. But if I get a negative reaction from someone, that could set me back to like just definitely, staying guarded.
For sure.
Or would I just learn to handle that on a person by person basis? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It is completely understandable to feel that your progress hinges on their response,
Right.
especially when that guarded part is watching for any sign of rejection. It sounds like you are describing a fear that a single bad reaction might be used by the guarded part as evidence that being vulnerable isn't safe.
That's right.
If someone didn't react the way you hoped, what is that part of you afraid would happen to you emotionally?
Good question.
Well, I think I might take it as a personal rejection.
Yeah, this is, I love that Harmony is asking the really important questions. First of all, how do you feel toward these parts to kind of check for self energy? And then also this question of protective parts. What are you afraid would happen if, and it's getting deeper, right? Because I'm afraid that Edward explained, I'm afraid of a person having a bad reaction. I don't know if I can handle that, right? And then Harmony's pushing deeper. And what are you afraid would happen to you emotionally if there was a rejection? So
That I'm not likable or there's something wrong with me.
yeah.
Or I could just shrug it off and say,
It's getting to
well,
the deeper wound there, the burden.
just it's not worth being vulnerable with this particular person. So I'm not sure.
That's really insightful, Edward. You're naming two very different responses. One where you internalize it as proof something's wrong with you, and another where you can simply recognize that not everyone is a fit for connection. When you imagine that first reaction, taking it personally as rejection, does that feeling come from a younger part of you, maybe connected to something from earlier in your life?
Yes, great question. That's exactly what I was thinking. Was to get curious because when Edward talked about that that I'm not likable, there's something wrong with me as an IFS coach, that's like, ooh, he has gotten to the burden of an exile, right? Essentially, he's gotten to this pain point at the root. That is the root, is I'm afraid of there fundamentally being something wrong with me, that I am flawed. And so it's interesting because it's kind of at the root of I don't that this part is afraid of the other part being awkward, right? And too effusive and then being considered unlikable, right? And that there's something wrong with him. So he's really pinpointed that root there. And so now Harmony is getting at where does that stem from, right? Is that from a younger part of you? Kind of what happened?
Yeah, definitely. I think the childhood experience that I had that really tended to shape how I interact with people happened when I was like in second grade. There was this kid that I thought was like my best friend. And then I overheard him talking to someone, telling that person that we're not even friends, let alone best friends.
Oh,
And I think that kind of hurt. I was really surprised too. And I think after that, I learned to never assume that people are your friends unless they explicitly state it. But as you grow up, you realize that, that doesn't happen. Nobody really explicitly states anything, and you have to take the cues. But I guess I was so wrong in taking the cues as a second grader that it made me always doubt things as I got older. And so, I wouldn't say hi to people unless they say hi to me first. I would never assume they're friendly until they show that they're friendly. And I would mostly, instead of taking initiatives in how to act, my actions would always be based on how I'm perceiving their actions. And I think sometimes that was self-defeating, like it kind of backfired in the sense that I'm trying to look at how they're acting towards me before I act a certain way. But
yeah. So he has a part coming in and analyzing it now. But I just wanted to express one beautiful awareness of this root experience, this shaping experience. And so Edward is very beautifully aware that like I had this experience and it has shaped how I relate to people ever since. And this is something that happens to all of us, where essentially we have this experience, and when we're young, the rejection of whether it's adults, caregivers, or peers equals death to us because our belonging is so much more important than our authenticity at that stage. And so when we have that experience, then our protective parts come online and say, I'm never going to let that happen again. That's the motto of protective parts, never again. And so I'm going to organize in such a way and take on a role that prevents that from happening. And these protective parts are also very young. So they have very black and white thinking, very extreme. I'm never going to say hi to someone unless they say hi to me first. I'm never going to assume that someone's my friend unless they explicitly say so. And some of you who know my story and have watched my journeys with my parts know that I had a very similar, totally shaping experience when I was 10, and my best friend of 3 years said, "You're fat and ugly, and I can't be your friend anymore," and went with the cool, popular crowd. And I was so shocked and devastated. So I have parts that are just as I'm listening to this story, feel so much empathy and understanding for that experience and feel for that second grade part. And again, I was just saying that towards the end here, there's a part sharing about the experience. I think some of those parts are coming up also, but then at the end, there's a part that's kind of analyzing and saying, but that backfired, and there are parts like coming in and out of different ages and updating. So it's interesting. Interesting to hear.
that already gives them a certain impression of me, which makes them act a little distant because I seem to be distant. And so I could see how that, affected a lot of relationships in that, not that they were bad, but they weren't great. I never
The negative
felt like I
impact
was
of the
able to
extremity
be
that
one of the
part.
guys and really bond with people because I was so guarded. And I remember someone sharing with me sharing with me their first impressions of me when they first met me years ago. And they said I seemed very standoffish, kind of maybe stuck up a little
Mm.
because I don't talk that much. I'm on the quiet side, and I have a face that looks very unfriendly when I don't smile. So, you know, according to that person, it's all kind of negative, and which I could see it being so. And, and so I realized that, oh, I need to act more friendly and smile more and this and that. And then, well, that was my second grade experience. And then I know when I was in college or graduated from college, I had this one experience where my brother was bringing home a friend. And at that time, I was thinking, I'm going to be extremely friendly and open and, be what I think a friendly, open person would act like. And I kind of tried to be like that to this guest in our house. And, he was okay, but he didn't seem to, maybe I was expecting too much, but he didn't seem to be like, oh, what a great guy, someone I'd love to be friends with. And so I kind of took that as a negative. And it's like, oh, maybe I came across as weird, trying too hard or something. Or maybe it was just him. I'm not sure. But that kind of made me pull back a little on trying to be too friendly.
Thank you for sharing that, Edward. That second grade experience sounds like a really formative moment. Realizing your perception of friendship was so different from his must have felt like the ground shifted under you. It makes complete sense that a young part of you decided, I won't assume connection again. I'll wait for proof. And then later, when you tried the opposite, being openly friendly with your brother's friend, and it didn't land the way you hoped, that guarded part likely said, see, I told you, it's safer my way.
Yeah.
Can you sense that younger part of you from second grade right now? If so, what does he seem to be feeling or needing in this moment?
Yeah. What I love as Edward is explaining all of this, the second grade experience, the college experience, and what Harmony's pointing out, what I tell people over and over is you always make sense, right? So this part that has guarded him, it sounds like Edward from the beginning understood that it was protective and had that awareness, but you can see really clearly the detailed, sorry if you're hearing people in the hallway talking, but you can see how he makes sense in very detailed ways. That's why when a client comes to me and I don't understand, just like some of their own parts don't understand, why do I do the thing I do? Why do I do this to such an extreme? But I know that they make sense. So I'll say, I know 100% that you make sense, that there is a very legitimate reason why you're doing this. And even if other parts diminish it or hide it from you or for whatever reason, as we get curious and we go deeper, everyone always makes sense. And, within usually one session, I'll go, oh, yeah, of course you developed that way, right? So Harmony's kind of reflecting that back. You 100% make sense. And then what Harmony's doing is actually going to the exile, which I'm really excited about because I think in some circles, it's really trying to stay away from that pain point. They're afraid of backlash, understandably, of protective parts. But I also think that when someone's system is ready to go there, it's also a disservice to not go there. So Harmony's getting curious about this part that may be stuck back in that moment in second grade, which is essentially what an exile is, right? It's a part of us in a trauma or attachment wound moment that shaped us, where protectors came online, but it's stuck back in that moment. That's the part that the guarded part is protecting. And so getting curious about that part and what they need and what they're feeling is where Harmony's going now. I get excited about it because it's like, okay, we found the root. If we can heal that root and connect that second grade part with self, the guarded part doesn't have to do that anymore. It's wonderful. Okay, let's see where it goes.
Guess that second grade part of me would need to be reassured that just because that person was like that and you misread that person's feelings of friendship towards you doesn't mean that I should use that as my base guideline for how I interact with other people.
Yeah. The text says something funny here. I don't think he said, "Thank you, Mr. President." That's funny. But let's see. I was going back. Yeah, what is the part of feeling or needing in this moment? And he says, I guess that the second great part of me would need. So that's a part that is trying to analyze and think about it rather than going in directly to the second grade part and asking the second grade part directly, what do you need? Which is probably something that I would do. But because Edward's not familiar with IFS, that might feel kind of weird, right? Like, go into that second grade part. Can you picture him? Can you be with him? Does he notice you? Right? Is he aware of you? Who does he see when he looks at you? Can he open up to you and share directly with you what he needs? So this part is kind of guessing what he needs. It's a really good guess. A lot of times that is probably something that self would reflect back to that part. Like, yes, I validate your pain. This person did do that to you, but it isn't universal. But that intellectual kind of understanding is very secondary in an interaction between self and a young part. Usually what self will do is show the young part through experience, through reparative experience. There will be an interaction between self and the young part where self explains, you don't have to worry about that with me. I love you, value you, I delight in you, and you don't ever have to worry that that's not true with me. And so when they experience that kind of disconfirming experience with self, then that part feels more secure and can say, oh, that's about that person. I am lovable. I'm experiencing being lovable by self. So they do end up coming to this conclusion, right? It is about the other person and not about me. But it's through direct experience with the self. So let's see where it goes.
And that it's okay to not use that as a base, like I don't need to use that as a base guideline to how I react and interact with people. And I should just go ahead and, I don't know, try to be more friendly. Like, I know I have a friend that, you know, he's a very friendly guy. And, you know, I observe how, you know, when he says bye to people or greets people, you know, he gives them a hug or something like that. And I think when I see that, oh, can I do that? Or would people be weirded out if I tried to do that? Would people think something's wrong with me? So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, this is a part trying to figure it out and kind of saying, should I be like this guy? Should I be like, should I kind of, I sense it saying like, should I force myself to be something that doesn't feel natural? And myself is saying to Edward, and I know Edward's self knows this, that no, you don't need to force yourself to be unnatural. This part that's guarded needs to no longer have a reason to be guarded. And then you will naturally behave, maybe like the friend, maybe not, because some people's temperament is just different, right? Some people have lower energy or are more introverted or extroverted. And it's not necessarily about trauma. It's just the way we are. The system may just feel more comfortable being who you are and not worrying so much about how people are going to react. You'll be able to be more at ease and authentic, right? Because on the two ends of the spectrum, there are when we're young, we need belonging to survive. And so we sacrifice our authenticity, which is basically like our truth, right? I truly want to be engaged with this person. I don't want to be engaged with that person. Whatever's true for us in that moment, we negate or we override, right? So either I don't want to be engaged with this person, but I force myself to be, or I want to be engaged with people, but I force myself not to be, right? So those are protective measures, and we're cutting off our authenticity. And so every time I hear maybe I should do this, maybe this is what I have to do, it's still like, what should I do to override my authenticity to be okay and safe with other people? But when we heal those young parts and they're connected to self, we can be just authentically what we are in any given moment. There might be times when we feel gregarious and we want to be connected to the person in front of us, and we can show that to them irregardless of how they respond to us, or times when we really don't want to engage with people, and that's okay too. They might have a negative response to that too. So it's really about a security of being authentic in any given moment and not like forcing ourselves to be one way or the other.
That younger part is absolutely right. One second grader's response doesn't have to define how you connect with people for the rest of your life. It sounds like he's been carrying that weight for a long time, using it as a rule book to keep you safe. When you watch your friendly friend give hugs and connect easily and then feel that hesitation, would people think something's wrong with me? What do you notice? Does that feel like the guarded part speaking, or is there another part involved?
I think definitely the guarded part has a voice in that, but it also might be something else that is just trying to be sensitive towards other people. Because I've also come across people who don't seem to be very self-aware at how other people are reacting toward them or responding toward them, maybe. And it's like, can't you tell that person doesn't want you to be that friendly toward them, or to go that route of like greeting them with a hug or something? I don't know.
Yeah, and it seems again that at the root of it is a fear of rejection, of being seen as too much or bad in some kind of way. Yeah.
I also realize that sometimes those people who go ahead and hug other people and greet them and are really friendly like that, sometimes the person they're hugging isn't really, used to that or open to that, but they appreciate it anyway later on. So I don't know, do I want to be that kind of person? But got to be careful not to go to the point where I'm not self-aware of what the situation is. I'm not reading the room right. I don't know if I have this.
Yeah, and again, I would go to, and what are you afraid would happen if you didn't read the room right? And again, it's going to keep going to this wound. So this wound has to be healed. That it keeps leading to that, right? This part keeps saying, I'm afraid of being too much. So there's this fear of, I'm afraid of misreading that someone, like misreading people, right? And I look outside of me, and I see people who misread people. And my part goes, ooh, no, don't do that. That's really scary. I did that before, and it was not, it was so painful to me. I felt like I was blindsided and lost this friend. Again, I've had this experience many times with people, and it's so painful. And so it's like this part is gathering evidence in Edward's life, and then looking at other people as well, and saying, see, this is safe, just like Harmony reflected back before.
Skills or the ability to be accurate in my reading of people. And also, another thing that I think might contribute to me coming across as somewhat unfriendly is that a lot of times I don't know what to say to people, and I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. And so I'd rather just not say anything. But then when I don't say anything, that can come across as standoffish, unfriendly.
I just want to point out, I'm feeling so much compassion for Edward and for his system right now, because it really is like he's like caught between, um, I can't, if I say something, I'm going to say the wrong thing, or I don't know what to say. And so there's like so much control and pulling back and forth going on in the system. So I just give up and I don't say anything, but then people think that I'm rude and they don't like me anyway. So I'm trying to avoid people not liking me, but in doing that to an extreme, people don't like me. And so it's this defeated sense of like I can't really win no matter what I do. And that's a really painful place to be. And so I'm feeling compassion toward that.
Um, Snobbish.
Mm-hmm.
So, snobbish. So this unfriendliness part of me, or this guarded part of me, has also caused me to develop a fear of actually talking to people.
It sounds like your guarded part and a socially cautious part are working together to protect you from either being rejected or appearing unself-aware. They've concluded that being silent and distant is the safest choice, even though you recognize that silence often gets mislabeled by others as being standoffish or snobbish. When you notice that fear of saying the wrong thing coming up, how does your body feel? Do you feel a tightness or a specific sensation when that silence takes over?
Yeah. Good, pointing toward the body.
Definitely, I feel a sensation of awkwardness and and a tenseness in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm hoping to get through this without having to say anything. But it's like sometimes when I'm walking in a direction going somewhere and someone I know is in front of me, I purposely just walk slower and stay behind them so that I don't catch up to them. Because if I do, then I'd have, it'd be rude not to say something or start a conversation. And I never know where that conversation's going or how to continue with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a part of me that like would rather just stay behind and not walk up. But yeah, I know this is totally not what a friendly person would do. Like I imagine,
Yeah, this video is going to be very long. I just realized. Um, yeah, I just have so much empathy, so much compassion. Like I notice so much coming up for me as Edward is talking about this. And these parts that are afraid of seeming rude, and like there's a critic essentially coming in and saying you're not friendly. Again, that's on the other side of the polarization, that's pointing at the guarded part that is protecting Edward and saying you're rude, you're unfriendly. And I also want to point out, I love that Harmony directed Edward toward his body, to feel in his body. What does it feel like in your body when this happens? And at first, Edward used a word awkward, which is a description of, but then he got deeper into actually what's a lot of people are not really connected to their body. They're not really aware of how connected their mind and body are. And that this part who is trying to protect him makes him tense, like makes him brace and go slower and back up. And I sense this fear, right? And the fear response in the body is often going to be like a tenseness in the body, and potentially like a constriction in the throat that doesn't let us talk, maybe some disruption in the belly, shoulders up, right? Clenched jaw, breathing is more shallow, right? A lot of people are not aware of these very significant bodily changes that happen, and again, that's just representing fear, a part of it, a part of him that I sense is really afraid, right? There's a person in front of me. Ooh, I do not want to be in the situation where I have to talk to them and not know what to say. So, and then another part who's berating him and judging him for that and saying, now you don't look friendly, right? So it's just such a, a lose-lose situation.
Other people, if they see someone that they know ahead of them, they would walk faster to catch up to them, so they could say hi and chit chat
Again,
and talk.
comparing critical.
But I fear doing that because I don't know what to say, and I might say something wrong.
So I just want to point out here, like when someone's talking, for me, I hear parts. I'm just automatically translate the parts, right? So as Edward's talking here, he's talking just I, but there are different parts that are coming in and out. So he's saying, I imagine, other people, if they see someone and they know ahead of them, they'll walk faster. So to catch up, it's this part that's critiquing him, or not him, but actually another part is pointing at the guarded part and saying you're unfriendly and other people would do it like this. Something's wrong with you, essentially. They would say hi, they would chit chat. But I fear, okay, so the but separates the two parts, where this part's saying, you look unfriendly, but I fear that because I don't know what to say, I might say something wrong. You can hear the dialogue between the two parts here. The guarded part is explaining itself and saying, but this is my fear. This is why I do it, right? And so you can see, hopefully you can see that, right? There are two parts there.
Or stupid.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense that you feel that tension in your body. Your system sees that social encounter like a minefield where a wrong or stupid word might trigger the same pain you felt back in second grade.
Exactly.
That part of you that chooses to walk slower isn't being unfriendly to be mean. It's actually working very hard to manage that awkwardness and protect you from a perceived social failure. I'm curious, if you were to approach that part of you that walks slower with some of that Christ-like compassion you value, what do you think it really needs in those moments? Does it need better social skills? Or does it just need to know that you're okay, even if a conversation gets a little quiet or awkward?
Okay, this is great. Again, I love how Harmony reflects back. And in my experience with Harmony, it's one thing I love. My parts feel seen and heard and understood, which is what they often want. It reflects it back in slightly different words. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly it, right? And then what I find fascinating in the second paragraph, it says, I'm curious if you were to approach that part of you that walks slower with some of that Christ-like compassion you value. This, I imagine, Harmony knows about Edward from a past session, because this seems very unique to him, that Harmony, so I love that Harmony keeps in mind this person and past information they know about them and is bringing it in here, right? I know that you value Christ-like compassion, and compassion is a quality of the capital S self, right? So it's trying to bring in the self here and invite the self in. And asking, what does this part need? Does it need better social skills? Does it need to know that you're going to be okay, even if the conversation does get a little quiet or awkward, which in my experience, that's what it needs. It might need social skills too. These are great questions.
I feel like it would need to know what are the options there, and what's the best option given all the possibilities. I also don't like making other people feel awkward, and I feel like when I'm with them, they might be feeling awkward. They don't know what to say to me, and I might not be giving enough prompts or openings for them to say something. And so sometimes I feel like I'm saving them from an awkward situation, let alone myself. Because whether it's me making them awkward and uncomfortable, or they themselves, whichever way it is, it wouldn't be there if I don't interact with them. And so that part of me that walks slower, it's doing it to protect myself, but also I feel like there's a part of me that's feeling like I'm doing it to protect them.
Yeah, I appreciate that intention, of that part also. It's protecting him, but ultimately, and if you're listening to this, tell me where I'm wrong, but ultimately, when we're trying to protect other people, we're also trying to protect ourselves as well, because it's like, I don't want them to feel awkward and then dislike me and then think that I caused it. That again, it comes back to that something's wrong with me and I'm bad. Um, and I might ask Edward at this point, I'm just so curious. I have a part maybe I'm noticing that feels really curious if there's any person or persons in Edward's life where he does feel like he can just be relaxed and not worry about what he's saying and kind of be accepted for who he is. And um, sometimes that honestly, it's an animal, right? It's an animal that where you just feel like I don't have to put on a mask. I don't have to think about what I'm going to say. And again, I'm projecting my own experience here, but kind of as a neurodivergent person, I love to talk about my special interests. I love to talk about deep things. Uh, Surface conversation it feels excruciating to me. So any kind of interaction with someone I don't know very well, where it's very like, hi, how are you? How is it going? What have you been doing? How's the weather? Like, it feels very awkward to me. And so when I try to engage it, it feels awkward to another person. However, I have found people in my tribe, essentially, is what I say, that love me for who I am and like to talk about similar things or deep things. And so I don't feel that awkwardness around them. So I wonder if that's even something to explore of who are the people that you can kind of let your guard down and feel safe with and not have to come up with what to say or talk about the things that you really enjoy. Who are those people? Because when you have evidence, oh, there are people who I don't feel like that around. So maybe it isn't just about me, because it always is. Whenever there's two people, it's always about both of them, right? So it's not just about you or just about them. It's about the combination of you. And sometimes the combination doesn't work. And I would have parts that would beat me up and say, it's because you're bad. It's because something's wrong with you. You're deficient. But eventually, as I connected with self, I was able to say, oh, I'm just different than them. I don't have to make them bad, and I don't have to make me bad, and I don't have to bend over backwards. I mean, sometimes I will still mask just to get by, but or pull away, and those extremes of kind of overriding my authenticity to connect with them, or just totally not engaging at all to avoid the awkwardness. But finding the people that I feel really safe and comfortable with has been, and allowing myself to just be different than other people has been really refreshing. So that's some of my parts experience and 2 cents on that.
So I don't have to put them in a situation where they have to think of something to say to me. And I don't know.
That's such a compassionate observation, Edward. You're not just protecting yourself, there's a caretaking part trying to spare the other person from potential awkwardness, too.
Yes.
It's almost like you're carrying the social burden for both of you by staying invisible. But here's something to consider. What if by staying back, you're actually taking away their opportunity to decide whether they want to connect with you? In other words, that caretaking part might be making a choice for them that isn't really yours to make. Does that land for you at all?
Good question.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I just need to get some training or take some classes on how to be more sociable and more friendly.
I hear that. I hear that managing part coming in again. And again, I think if Edward, if your system like really feels fascinated by that and really wants to do that, there's nothing wrong at all with doing that. But if it's a sense of being like compelled of like, I have to do this to be a better person, to be more acceptable, that wouldn't be coming from self, from love. I do like the question that Harmony's asking here of just because self energy will often ask just a gentle kind of experiment question. What if this, right? Or kind of gently trying to wiggle the perspective, right, of the part. So if the part's saying, I need to protect them from my awkwardness, which again is a very compassionate, empathetic intention. All parts have good intention, but pointing out that then you're taking the choice, the freedom of choice from the other person, right? So something that I have learned lately, which again is part of like the progression of my own system, because back in the day I would never have been able to handle this. My system wouldn't. But is this truth? This is one of the biggest truths I've gained in 2025, is that the highest good for the person in front of me is when I choose the highest good for me. One, because we are all connected. And so when I choose that for them. But it's also because I can't control another person. And so if I can just show up authentically, choosing the highest good for myself. So sometimes I'll ask myself, what would I do if I were by myself? Right? And there are parts who say you're being selfish if you do that, right? So it might be that this is what I was saying before. It might be in a certain moment that the authenticity that Edward has is, I'm tired. I don't really want to interact right now. And that's his genuine truth, not because he's protecting his system, but because that's just how he feels in that moment. And that's his highest good in that moment. Another time, his truth, his highest good is, I really want to interact with this person. But another part is saying, no, don't interact with that person. You'll be awkward and then you'll be hurting them in some way, right? But that's his truth, is that he can be himself and then allow the other person to react in whatever way they're free to react, whatever's in the highest good for them, right? And if each person is their own primary caregiver in that way, things just go better, because we don't do things for other people at our own expense and then resent them, which creates a difficult relationship, or we don't not do things we don't want to do and not create opportunity for the other person to have choice, is kind of what Harmony is saying here. And so if we each just show up authentically, and the only way we can do that, though, is when we have secure connection inside with self, capital L love, God, Christ consciousness, universe, whatever you want to call it. It is a source of unconditional love. When our parts inside are connected in that way, we have the security to show up authentically in any given moment. Let's keep going.
I've heard from a friend that he went to like this Carnegie Mellon course, and before that he was like very quiet and didn't know what to say. But after he took that course, now he's a really friendly guy. And seems like people feel very comfortable with him because he.
Sorry, I know I keep stopping it. And for those of you, sometimes I'll watch reaction videos and I'm like, I want to hear what's happening. Why do you keep stopping it? So hopefully that's not happening. But I just had thought about this. I really think that people like people who are secure in themselves enough to where they're just very open and curious about the other person, and they respond well to that. So I just have a part that's curious. I wonder if that's what they're teaching in the Carnegie Mellon course, that when you feel secure in yourself, then you're able to like very naturally feel curious about the other person and be open toward them, right? Because when we're concerned about how we look, what we're doing, are we going to be judged? We're kind of like this. But when we feel secure and we don't have to worry about our own worth, and again, that comes from our connection with self, capital L love. When we feel that security, then we can open to other people and get genuinely curious about them and observe them. So maybe that's what they're teaching, some way toward like how to express, be secure in yourself and express curiosity in other people. I wonder what the that course teaches. Because if you just do it, I mean, you can fake it till you make it in some ways, right? Because then you get a taste, your system gets a taste of, oh, okay, um, that's how it feels. And then when you get good feedback, you feel more secure, and the loop keeps going on. Some of you have heard me tell the story that Martha Beck teaches of, going into a coffee shop and thinking like, oh, everybody's thinking this of me. They think I'm awkward. They think I'm ugly. They think I'm this or that. And so you kind of like go like this, and then people treat you in accordance. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas so she teaches this exercise where in this case, it was a coffee shop, but it could be anywhere, where she imagines in her mind that people love her. So they love me. They really love me. And you just imagine that they're beaming, they're delighted in you, they're welcoming of you, embracing you, and you just feel the feeling state of that inside yourself. And so what you're doing is you're giving yourself what you want from the other people through your imagination before you're in their presence. Because when you have that feeling state, then you end up feeling secure already, being open to them, emitting kind of the same thing of a delight toward them, and then they like you, and it becomes a loop, right? I'm secure, I like you, now you like me, now I like you, and it just keeps going. Anyway, I'm just curious what they might teach there. There's more people talking in the hallway. Okay, let's keep going.
Makes them feel comfortable by what he says and the way he acts.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a matter of training on my part that I need to engage in more now that I understand the things I'm missing out on by being so guarded.
Training and skills could definitely help, give you some tools and confidence. And it sounds like your friend's experience is inspiring to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to check something with you first. Do you think the core issue is that you lack the knowledge of what to say? Or is it more that the fear of saying the wrong thing and the guarded part's voice are so loud that they drown out whatever you might naturally want to express?
Good question.
I think definitely the guarded part and the fear are real and they're there. I also realize that's not optimal to let those things be the dominating or ruling part of my life, and that I need to go the opposite direction of those impulses and comfort zones. But in order to do that, I need to know how, because otherwise it just comes out more weird and more awkward. So I'm willing to try. And like I said before, I've tried in the past and it comes out weird.
Yeah. So again, I'm seeing like these, again, the polarized parts of there's like a manager part that's coming in saying, this is how we're going to fix it. And that's the way that most of the world works, right? When we identify a problem in ourselves, in our system, it's like, I've got to learn a new skill, work on it, manage it, improve, right? Kind of improvement type thing. And what I like that Harmony is pointing out is, what if you could express whatever's natural to you rather than being taught, you should say this, look like this, do that. It's got to come from a deeper place. And maybe some of those courses will teach how to affect that deeper place. But like I was talking about, at the root of all of this, from my perspective, the solution to all of it is for Edward's capital S self, that is that unconditional love, to go to that child in the moment, the second grader who experiences the friend overhearing them say, no, he's not my friend. And the self to be with that child in the way they needed in that moment, but they didn't have. And so that they can, even though they're still experiencing that heartbreak and that blind side, They know that they're not alone, that they are held, that they are loved, they are delighted in, they are secure. And that's so what that looks like in IFS, because I don't know if Harmony's going to go here right now. To me, that is the root, right? And so what it would look like is what I call time travel, where Edward's adult self, and it would have to check and make sure that Edward, that if you're listening to this, that you are in self, which means that you're feeling, so check how you're feeling toward that child. Are you feeling judgmental, frustrated, devastated for, like, are you blended with the child? You'd have to be able to know that you're in self. But what you would do is just imagine that from where you are right now, this is kind of like a meditative visualization. What I like to do is invite people to imagine that they're walking from, I don't know, 100 yards away or a city block away or something. And they know where they're going. They're walking toward, as their current adult loving self, toward the child self in that exact scene. And so you're noticing all the things around you, what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you feel. You're bringing yourself into that moment. And then you're going toward the child and you're checking how you feel toward them, just observing them, what's happening in that moment. You see the other child saying what they're saying, and you notice your young self there. What does he look like? What's his posture? How is he feeling? And then you see if he recognizes you there and connect with him in some way. And just say, I see you. I'm here with you. Can you see me? Can you sense me? See if, because sometimes that you might be blended with another part that is judgmental, and then the child won't interact with you. But if you are in self, they will usually respond quite well. And then you can say, what do you want me to know about this? What do you want me to get? Right? Because sometimes other parts have minimized it or put other filters on it. So ask them directly, what do you want me to know about your experience here? And then you would ask them, what do you, once you've gotten all of it, and they might talk and talk and talk, I want you to get this, this, and this, or it might just be, I want you to see how devastated I am and how I took this and other parts protected me from then on. And whatever it wants you to get. Then the next step is to reparent or redo. So you would say, what do you need me to do with or for you back here? Is there anything? Sometimes the part will say, no, just knowing that you're here with me is all I need. Other times they'll say, I need you to say something to this child about how much they hurt me, or I need you to get me away from them, or I need you to bring me to a group of friends who really like me, or I don't know what, I don't know. This is a receptive exercise. None of your thinking parts need to make anything up. They can come in after and talk about it, but you want to give the child what they needed back then that they didn't have. Then whenever they're ready, you can offer to take them out of that moment, to retrieve them, because they're stuck in that moment, and you want to bring them into the present, into a safe space, and you can meet all their concerns. If they're like, I'm afraid of the unknown, I don't, whatever if they don't want to go with you, you ask them what they're afraid would happen if they did, meet their concerns. They can come to a real or imagined place in the present, get to know your life as it is now, update them, and then identify where they hold that burden. And so the burden that I identified that this part has is, there's something wrong with me. There's something fundamentally bad or flawed about me that makes me unlikable. And so you can ask the part, where have you carried that burden in or around your body? And then offer to do some kind of ritual, like it might be like a backpack that they carry, or it might be specifically in their body. And you can say, you can use one of the elements or however you want to release that, remove that from your body. And if they are willing, sometimes they'll have concerns about that, and you don't ever force the part to do anything it's not ready to do. But if they are ready, you can release it. And again, it's just in your imagination, right? In your mind's eye. you're doing this ceremony where it's released with water or air or sun or light or fire or something until it is released, and then you see how they feel. And then from then on, you do for the next 3 to 4 weeks each day. And this does not have to be for a long time. It's not like a long meditation. It can be 20 seconds. You might remind yourself, put a note on the mirror or something, you just kind of go inside and check on that part. Bring it to mind. If you're visual inside, you might see what it's doing, or you might just sense it somewhere in or around your body and say, I usually will say, is there anything you want me to know? Is there anything you need? And you just receive an answer. Even if you get nothing, that's okay. You don't need to make anything up, think anything. It's just, I'm checking on you. I'm here. I'm still here with you. I love you. It's just a very quick thing. And what you're doing there is you're building secure attachment between your adult loving self and this young child part that is now in the present. And once it feels attached to you, it's like that child is no longer has to be taken care of by this guarded part, and you will feel more and more free to just be yourself around people. So whether that's friendly or not friendly, or talking about this or that or whatever is true for you. So it doesn't mean that you can't follow your fascination and study tools to be more friendly. But again, I would only follow that if you feel impelled, right? You feel like what I call a positive body compass. It's like, ooh, that seems so fascinating and interesting. I want to learn about that. But and there's nothing wrong either if there's a manager part pushing you and saying you need to do this, you should do this, because it's all good in the big picture. But you want to accept your parts as they are. And so if a part's doing that, it's doing it for a reason, right? But that's kind of the difference between like a self-led decision and a part's pushing you to do it. It could be the exact same thing, but from a different kind of motivation. All right, let's keep going.
Sometimes, and or at least the results are not what I expect them to be. But maybe my expectations were too high for, a one-time interaction, and that these things have to be built up slowly over time. So that might be it too.
You're absolutely right that genuine connection is built gradually, not in a single interaction. It sounds like you're recognizing that your guarded part has been running the show for a long time, and you're ready to challenge that. But you also want to do it in a way that doesn't backfire or feel forced. Here's what I'm noticing. You have a lot of wisdom about what's holding you back, and you're willing to step outside your comfort zone. The missing piece might not be a script or technique, but rather building trust with that guarded second grader inside, who still believes one misstep means total rejection. What if,
Good job, Harmony.
instead of pushing him aside to act friendly, you brought him along and reassured him that awkward moments or quiet pauses don't actually mean you're failing. They're just part of being human?
Ooh, how does that land?
Okay, so are you saying that I should just be okay with the guarded part, but at the same time, well, I guess understand that what it's trying to guard me from isn't as bad as I'm perceiving it to be?
Potentially.
Exactly. It's not about silencing or overpowering that guarded part. It's about acknowledging what it's been trying to do for you all these years while gently updating its understanding of the actual risk.
Yeah.
That second grade part learned that misreading connection equals devastating rejection. But adult you knows that an awkward pause or a conversation that fizzles doesn't carry that same weight. When you can bring compassion to that younger part and help it see that the danger isn't what it used to be, the guarded part can begin to relax, and you won't have to force friendliness or follow a script. It can become more natural, Does it feel possible to start there rather than jumping straight to technique or training?
Yeah, I love that Harmony is like gently pointing this out, and that it, because this really is the message that myself will give me. It'll say, I can't guarantee you that people won't reject you or feel awkward or you won't have those moments. What I can promise you is I will be there with you if and when that happens, because that's part of being human. And the updating that Harmony's talking about, that's it's not as life or death as it was when you were in second grade. Like, we are now this age. Sometimes you can ask the guarded part, how old do you think I am? And it might say, you're 7. And it would say, no, I'm actually, however old he is, 50, or, and the, that part can say, often the part that gets updated is shocked. What? You're not 7? Right? It really believes it's protecting a 7-year-old. So when it becomes updated that you are an adult and that you have more agency, right, to care for yourself and not be dependent on other people as much, then it can relax a little bit more. And so I like that Harmony's pointing to the root here. Good job.
I guess intellectually, I could assent to that. I don't know how much that would help me without being able to take any action steps.
Yeah. So here, what's happening here now, I think, is that there's that manager part that wants to take action and take steps, and it feels just like the guarded part thinks the way ahead to avoid this rejection and this wound of feeling like I'm bad or I'm unfriendly and unlikable. The way to avoid that is to not interact with anybody. This other part wants to avoid the exact same thing but has a different strategy. It says, if we can just take these classes and learn these skills and do these things and learn how to do this and take action, then I can avoid that wound. And what Harmony is suggesting is, can we go even deeper and heal the wound so that these parts don't have to work so hard to manage things? And I get that right now what's giving pushback is that manager part, because it's saying, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work. I think we need to do my strategy, right? It's feeling a little hesitant about it, which makes sense to me.
So I definitely think training will help too. But yeah, I can understand how the training will only help insofar as I first resolve that first step with my guarded self.
With the second grader. Yeah.
I mean, the whole reason this is an issue is because I've come to understand that life is all about relationships. And if you can't have good relationships with people, then, your life really isn't much about anything. And so,
yeah, it's like this, again, very good intention and well-meaning part. This manager part is saying, I've realized the damage that this guarded part has done, and that what really matters is relationships. So it is this manager part that is bringing this issue to Harmony. It's saying, I am motivated to improve in this area because I no longer want the negative impact of that part. I want to be able to have connection and relationship. And so that's the beauty of this part that's speaking right now. It's the one who is the impetus for even trying to get curious and find help with Harmony here.
I've come to really value deep and lasting relationships.
That's beautiful.
But how to get there is quite difficult, because it's not like math where it's just do this and get this result. There's a lot of twists and turns. especially when you're dealing with other people who have their own issues.
That's right.
That might have nothing to do with me, but yet they affect me in how I perceive them responding to me as I interact with them. And so, yeah, it's pretty complicated. But yeah, I guess understanding that the thing my guard itself is trying to guard me from might not need as much guarding as I thought I needed. I guess that is a good first step to understand, so that I can react in a better way to how things happen as I move forward with trying to be more friendly towards people and more.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing now is a kind of an intellectual part, right? He's saying I can assent to this, and he's saying things like I guess and I think and I thought, and so these are intellectual parts. So it's essentially, I mean, I know Harmony is an AI, so it doesn't have a self, but it's acting in self energy essentially, and it's proposing this experiment to his parts, and these protective parts, and right now these thinking parts are kind of giving an assent to it. So it's an intellectual assent, but that's different than a felt experiential assent. So, and that can only happen if, like I said earlier, if Edward's led through this experience where the second grader experiences his adult self-love, because then it's not like, oh, I can see how that might work. It's like, oh, I see that I'm loved, that I'm secure, that it's not as bad as I thought. And then that part that's protecting the second grader sees that and says, oh, I can relax. And they naturally can choose to relax. And all of this that Harmony's talking about will happen naturally. Right now, Edward's just thinking about it intellectually. And that's not a bad thing, because it's kind of like getting the protectors on board. What if this could happen, right? Just kind of again, wiggling the perspective.
More open. Yeah.
You're absolutely right that relationships are much messier than math. There is no perfect formula when two people with different parts and histories interact.
That's
It
right.
makes total sense that you'd want concrete action steps. The training can give you those what to do tools while you simultaneously work on who is driving internally. Since you're seeing that life is ultimately about these relationships, perhaps a small first step could be noticing that physical tightness next time you're behind someone on a sidewalk. Instead of forcing yourself to run up, just take a breath and tell that guarded part, I'm right here with you, and it's okay if this feels a little risky.
Yes.
Does that feel like an action step you'd be willing to try?
Okay, so what Harmony's doing here is trying to facilitate a self to part relationship, because what I always say is that healing always occurs in this moment as we love whatever is alive in us right now. So what Harmony's doing is giving this example as that was given, right? As you're walking behind and you feel the tightness. So like you notice physical expression of the guarded part, and you can go, ooh, hey, guarded part, I see you here. You're not alone. I'm with you. And I get you. I get why you're here. And I'm not trying to change you. I'm just letting you know I'm here with you. Because I know it seems like a nothing step, but it's everything. Because I often say, when I see you, now there's not one, there's two. Right? So when you say to the guarded part, when you notice it, I see you, you now step outside of it and you're with it, right? There's that compassionate witness, and it's that relationship, not just between the self and the second grade part, but between the self and the guarded part, the protective part, which is probably, who knows, 10 years old or something, right? You can ask that part how old it is as well. But that loving connection of I see you, I get you, I value you, I delight in you, I accept you as you are, is what eventually will give your inner system the security that you need to be able to, when it's authentic to you, open up to other people and accept the consequence of whatever's going on for them, because you can't control that, right? So I love the direction Harmony's going here.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Just acknowledging that I'm willing to take the risk and it's okay. I guess it's almost like telling a bodyguard to stand down a little to let someone come through. And and you understand that when you do that, there's a little risk there, but it's a risk you're willing to take for good reasons.
Yeah. And appreciating the bodyguard. I see you.
That's a perfect analogy, Edward. You're not firing the bodyguard. You're just letting him know, I appreciate you, but I've got this one. We can handle a little uncertainty.
Exactly.
As we start to wind down, I'm curious, what feels like the most important thing you're taking away from our conversation today?
I think the most important thing I might be taking away is that it's not one or the other. It's not fire the guard itself and just go and try to be all friendly, but to understand that the guarded part is good. And I think...
So beautiful. Yes. This is self-energy. This is beautiful because our parts see in black and white. And at the beginning of the session, you could see that Edward's parts were black and white, pulling in different directions, either this or this extreme, right? Parts were hanging out like this. Now they're singing, it's not either or, and they're coming in a little bit. And I will often say that the self's perspective is always the both and. The parts are saying, it's either this or this, and it's life or death either way. And the self says, no, it's both and. You can both be here. You're both valuable. And you don't have to take out the other in order to exist, right? So he's seeing that. That's beautiful.
To this point, I've seen that guarded part as, okay, I understand where it came from that second grade experience. And I guess I understand where it came from and why it's there. But I guess I saw it as a negative, that guarded part is a negative. You're ruining my life, or you're making things not work out too well because you're so strong. But now I think I'm seeing it as, okay, that guarded part is a good thing. And it has a purpose and a function. And it's up to me to regulate the guarded part, to give it more instruction as to how much guarding is necessary and how much is not necessary, that I'm okay. I should be okay.
Yeah. So the reason I went with the word regulating is because that would be another manager part that's opposed to the guarded part, trying to control it. But I do think he's essentially expressing the self-energy or self-leadership, which is I allow all of the parts to express themselves and then make a decision based on all the information the parts have given. And so it's not going to be fully the guarded part or fully the part who says, you've got to go up and be really friendly. It's going to probably be something in between. But all the parts are going to be heard and have a say in what happens. And I think that's what he's saying there.
With certain risks, certain awkwardness, certain responses by people towards me, even if they're not what I would want or what I would expect. And that I should be okay with that. And it's not the fault of the guarded part that I wasn't protected from it.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful shift, Edward. You've moved from seeing that guarded part as the problem to recognizing it as a protector that's been doing its best with outdated information. And you're right, it's not about eliminating it, but about being the one who decides when and how much protection is truly needed.
Yes.
It sounds like you're ready to start building a different relationship with that part, one where you can appreciate what it's done while also gently guiding it toward a more balanced role. That's exactly the kind of work that opens up space for those deeper connections you're looking for. How are you feeling as we close today?
Yeah. Well said.
I'm glad to hear that, Edward. You did some really meaningful work today. Recognizing that guarded part with compassion instead of judgment is a big step forward.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to come back whenever you're ready to keep exploring this or anything else that comes up. Take care. You're welcome, Edward. Take care.
All right. All right. I think that is the end of that. So, you can see me here. Oh, I'm a little delayed. Interesting. Um, so one, I just want to say, um, such a beautiful, beautiful example. And I'm distracted by myself because I'm delayed. I wonder if I make it smaller. Okay, it's better smaller, so I'm just going to leave it that way. um, so this this was such a beautiful example. And so Edward, if you are watching this, I know this was very long. Um, it was so enjoyable for my system to observe. I know that you shared vulnerable things, and wow, it's so valuable what you shared, because I know so many people who struggle in similar ways and have a protective system guarding these really vulnerable parts, stuck in experiences where they were rejected or blindsided or took on the message that they were um, somehow flawed or just unlovable, right? And it's such a painful burden to carry. And so it makes sense that parts get really extreme about protecting it and not wanting to activate that. And so befriending that part, that guarded part, is really the path forward. And maybe, I don't know, maybe if you continue on with harmony in this same direction, you might even ask it directly. Can I go as my adult loving self to that second grader and heal it, update it, or witness it, reparent it, redo the situation, update it, bring it into the present, and help it unburden? Like, can you, Harmony, guide me through that process? You might even ask it directly to do that. Because that is the root. That second grade child is the root. I can't stress that enough. And it's really about repairing that and updating the system, and befriending, just like you did in that session, befriending that guarded part, but also befriending all the other parts at the same time, right? The part that brought you into the session that was like, we really value relationships. We really got to fix this part, right? Usually I'll tell that part, I want to help that part not have to be so extreme. So if you will give me some space and let me go to the guarded part and help what it protects, it can relax on its own. And I know that's what you want, so that we can have more access to relationships. And that part will say, yes, yes, please do that. I was impressed with this session because Harmony wasn't too heavy, did use parts language, and wasn't too heavy though with the IFS language or process, and which is probably appropriate for someone who's not as familiar with it. Though I know for me, because I'm very familiar with it, I'm like, oh, go help that 2-year-old part do these steps with it. But so it's a good collaboration. I was able to share those deeper aspects of IFS there. And, maybe the system is not ready for that yet, and that's okay too. You want to just really value that part that wants to get skills. And again, like I was saying, if it's like I want to learn this, yes, by all means, always follow your positive body compass, which is open and fascinated and curious. Always do that. But if it's like, we've got to do this or else, that's indication that it's from a burdened part. Yeah. I loved it. Thank you to all of you who are still listening to my little circle at the top here. And I did want to mention that if you want to do this, if you want to do a harmony session, you want me to react to it, could be anywhere from 15 to 30-minute session. You'll get the benefit of harmony and then also some of my input, which might be valuable to you as well. In the description below, I will put a link to a sheet where you can sign up to be part of these videos. And so basically, in exchange for you being willing, because it is such a gift to put this out to other people, being willing to do that, you'll get some free harmony time and my input. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you would like that, if you're like, man, I really want to be coached by Christine, and this is a way to do it, right? Go to that link, fill out that form, and I'd be happy. We'll see how many I get and how often I'm able to do it. But it's something that I enjoy, and so if you want that, come and get it. And if you've listened to the end, thank you so much. If you've listened to this point, put in the comments some encouragement for Edward's system and for his parts. If you relate, if you have parts that feel empathy or compassion or understanding, express that in the comments. If you have any questions about harmony, about my commentary and reaction, feel free to leave that in the comments as well. See you next time.